Hi, guys, and welcome back. It is time to talk Housewives. There's so much going on in the Bravo universe. I'm going to skip my intro today and just come on and say hello. Not going to bore you with an introduction. I want to hop right into this because there's a lot of tea going around. Salt Lake City, we had a reunion, part one. A lot of Heather is getting a lot of blowback. I think people are really starting to see the light when it comes to Heather, and she's falling. She's not having a great season, and I don't know if we're gonna see her be able to recuperate much next season. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens at the reunion. Anyways, we have that going on. We have a little bit in New Jersey. I'm hearing some rumblings about Gia Giudice, Teresa Giudice, and a restaurant, of course, right? Of course, a restaurant. Um, just some commentary I've seen on that we might go over today. Also, of course, we have Beverly Hills, we have Potomac. I think Mauricio is going to be making a like appearance on Potomac coming up soon. Like he's in Colorado, they're in Colorado. He's there for his daughter's bachelorette party. I think it's a little strange that he would be there and Kyle wouldn't be there, right? I mean, it's their daughter. Why would he be at her bachelorette party but Kyle not be there? I find that a little peculiar. Um, so we're going to chat about that. Of course, we are seeing a lot of people having some strong opinions about Amanda from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills as well. And people seem to either really like her or not like her at all. Which is how it always seems to go. But overall, the general consensus that I'm getting from Beverly Hills fans is that they're just not super duper into it this year. And neither were they last year or the year before, really. But with everything that happened with Kyle and Mauricio, I think it really prompted people to tune in to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because, we've been watching Kyle and Mauricio and their family for so long. So when there was like trouble in the marriage and the People magazine article came out, and then Kyle was with Morgan and Mauricio was dating, people were like, at that point, I think kind of burnt out on Beverly Hills. But because that was happening, and then of course enter in everything that was happening with Dory and PK and their separation and divorce, which came as a surprise to a lot of fans, even though allegedly they had been separated for, I don't know, years or something prior to. Um, but we have all of these like moving wheels that like engaged fans to watch those seasons, even though I think that they were kind of burnt out on the franchise, needing a little bit of a refresher as it is. So, not surprised there. Also, what was there something else? Oh, there was a really good blind item that came out yesterday from the Crazy Days and Nights. They have a Twitter account now, so if you don't follow them, just a little bit of a backstory to cue you guys in. So the blind items come from Celebrity Blind Items, and they are written by an anonymous gentleman. Well, I think there were several of them at one time that started this as like a way to sort of release like their stress because they all worked in the industry, and so they would write up these celebrity blind items about people, things that they knew to be true, but they would disguise it in a way that for people to guess. um, his name, he goes by NT Lawyer. His identity was fully exposed a couple of years ago for the first time in like 20 years. But I still think that he tries to, stay anonymous as much as he can. But, he's been spot on for years and years and years when it comes to these celebrity blind items. And sometimes he will feature housewives. And those are some of my favorite blind items. And most recently, he on the 14th posted on Twitter about a housewife, and he used the snowflake emoji, which we all affiliate with Salt Lake City. But he was referencing a substance that also can be coded as snow. So the snowflake is kind of confusing us. We're not sure which direction to go with that because of the fact that, are we talking about Salt Lake City or are we talking about, we're obviously talking about the substance of snow, but like, anyways, it's a very juicy. Apparently, there is a housewife that has found herself with an expensive snow habit and, sleeping with her provider, if you will, because she's having a hard time affording it, and also getting threats from people wanting to possibly turn her into children's services. Um, and then also, apparently, she has been very good at disguising her use over, her time on The Real Housewives, and that no one on the cast really knew, but she shared it with somebody, and now they're holding it over her head. And so there's not a whole lot of options on who this could be because if Children's Services is being threatened, then obviously there must be minor children in the home. And so it kind of leaves us with a short list of housewives that it could really be, especially coming out of Salt Lake City. And the general consensus seems to be Whitney, which is kind of surprising after everything that we've seen and heard come from her as far as it pertains to Meredith Marks. And, Whitney just really going hard on Meredith. About, her drinking or prescriptions or whatever it is that Whitney, says Meredith takes part in. Um, we have to remember that Whitney also has a dad that had substance issues as well. We did meet him on the show, which I always thought took a lot of, I don't know, it took a lot, I would assume, for her to bring her dad onto the show. She was fairly new then. He was, I think, coming out of rehab maybe, and he was in beauty school, if I'm remembering correctly. This is Whitney's dad, but he had suffered from, I think, alcohol and drug addiction for a long, long time, and was trying to get his life together. And she did share that on the show, and they seemed to have a good relationship at that time. But then I think he maybe fell off and started using again. And sadly, I don't think that they speak at all anymore. So I guess it wouldn't be out of the grain to say that it possibly could be Whitney because she does have like minor children at home, and we do, see her like to have a good time. It seems like, drinking and all of that. I don't know though if I could see her hiding an actual, being, I don't know if I could, I just don't know if maybe I've missed it. I usually have an eye for that sort of thing. I can't believe that she would have it together, this long and be on the show this, all these years and no one have picked up on anything because usually if somebody misses it, somebody else picks up on it. But that's the allegations of the blind item is that she's, covered it up and she's that the cast didn't even know and that she's confided in one of them and they're holding it over her head, which could be Heather. Right. But we know that Heather likes to party too. We know that Heather and Jen Shaw and Meredith allegedly were partying on um, lots of extra, mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. I've heard Special K, alcohol, all these things that they were taking part in. I don't know if maybe Whitney and Heather weren't as close during those seasons, and maybe it was just Jen Shaw and Meredith and Heather that were, getting down like that. I don't know. Because it just seems to me that Heather and Whitney would be partying together at this point. Some people also reference their trip to Greece this year when they made a strange comment that people caught on camera, which was that basically they were saying, okay, how in Vanderpump Rules, it was alleged that they would use the word pasta, which was their code word um, for snow or Coca-Cola or whatever you want to call it, right? So pasta, when they would say pasta, they actually meant, the substance. And so when everyone was watching this season of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and they were in Greece, and it seemed like a really weird thing to say, Heather said something to Whitney or Whitney to Heather about should we try to go get bottled water first? And that seemed very peculiar to people, fans, and everyone watching. And they actually even were questioning, like, is this the same kind of scenario that we saw in Vanderpump Rules, right? Like, is this their code word or something? Well, then some people were speaking out and saying, no, it's just that that's how it is in Greece, that they don't have like amenities of like fresh water to drink. I guess like you have to go to your um I don't even know, like the lobby, I guess. I don't know how they explained. I don't know if they can't drink, you can't drink the water there in Greece where they were staying at in the city. Like you can maybe like shower in it and everything's safe, but it's not safe to drink. So you have to drink treated water. But at the same time, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to already have that in your room, I guess. Why you would have to call a concierge, why you would have to go to the lobby to get that. I'm not sure, but I'm also not, a world traveler. So, if anyone has any insight to that and what that was about, please put it in the comments. I've seen a couple of people here and there mention, um, that that's like common in that city that they were in Greece, and that the hotel they were staying at, somebody in the comments had stayed there and said that's like the setup or what have you. But it did seem peculiar, and it did seem peculiar that production kept that comment in there. Another housewife I think that we possibly are not mentioning that it could be would be Lisa Hochstein. Um, I think that Lisa seems smart about her finances. Obviously, she's been with a doctor and she's not had to worry about money for years and years. But, her and the doctor have been separated for quite some time, and she's dating Jody. And the only thing about that is you guys remember last season, right? With the whole air conditioning comment that happened at Jody's birthday party that prompted people to think that him and his friends were like partying in the other room, if you remember. She would fit the bill if it were, somebody with small children, because she does have small children. I don't know what her income is like though, because I do feel like she has investments. Like she was working on that app that was going to be for divorces, and it was going to have legal aid. And I think Jody had, helped her with that and got her in contact with the people to sort of try to make that happen, and she's been working on that for the last couple of years. But I don't know what her financial situation beyond that really is, like what that could look like. I just remember Larsa talking about on the show that she was, frustrated when she would have like her business calls with Lisa, that Jody was always on them. And you guys know Jody and Lisa, I think, are like broke up. They're done for. He had commented on Instagram somewhere that they had split, which was surprising because last season they were talking about getting married. So I thought that he was great for her. He was a good balance, gave her a different perspective and that sort of thing. But I don't know if I could see. I mean, maybe she is partying a lot. It's definitely possible. Um, she could have picked up her partying ways from Jody, to be honest, right? I don't know how much the doctor, her ex-husband, was partying. I think, they used to have big parties and have a good time, he, but he is a surgeon, and I think like when you're getting up and doing surgery and people's lives are in your hands, I would hope that you wouldn't be recreationally partying with those sort of substances. That's not to say that that doesn't happen, but I mean, to each their own, I guess. But I just can't see Lisa getting so out of control that she is, looking people. Someone could potentially be threatening to call children's services on her, or, that she's running low on money because of it. I just hope that she would be doing better than that, right? There's not a lot of other options that I could really be. Um, And the only reason I really think that it could be Lisa is because everything, like I said, that happened with production last season with Jody and the air conditioning comments and all of that. And if you remember the episode that I think it was like the first episode of the season or the second one, Lisa has a party at her house and she kicks Larsa out. And she is the girls keep referencing that she's drunk and she's saying that she's drunk, but she doesn't look drunk. She's not acting drunk. Um, she's not slurring her words. She's not sloppy. She's not any of that. It's obvious that she's like, uh, must be like doing something else, right? And they're just kind of referencing it as alcohol because they all know what it is because it's Miami, and we know that I think it's pretty socially acceptable in Miami to do that sort of recreational, uh, Uggs. And we know, a lot the ladies have husbands that have histories of, convictions from trafficking the cocaine, right? We know. So I don't know. I hope that it's not Lisa. Don't want it to be any housewife, of course, but um, especially Lisa, just because she's been through so much over the last couple of years and the divorce and her kids and everything. I would hate to see her get hooked on something like that and it, be her downfall. Other than that, like I said, people's best guesses were Whitney, and I just don't see it with Whitney. I can't help it. I don't see it. Um, I just don't. I can't help it. So if you guys have any guesses on who you think the blind item is referencing, or if you got any weird feelings about anyone, then go ahead and put that in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. A lot of people I've seen also coming after Lisa Barlow for her Vita Tequila. All over TikTok, it seems to be a big debate between creators about whether the Vita Tequila is real or not, which I think that at this point we pretty much know Vita Tequila is real. It is a working company. Um, maybe it's not sourced nationwide. Um, Maybe it's not as accessible as we would think or assume it would be. I did see a really great explanation on the Vita Tequila and how I can't explain it how they explained it perfectly, but something along the lines of like basically there's a formula or recipe for Vita tequila. It's through like another, you know, source or whatever. And so they only make so many or so much. And so when Lisa and her husband, purchase it because they can't purchase huge quantities of it because of the shelf life and price and all of that, that they only get so much made at a time. And so that's why it's not like sourced everywhere. Like that's why it's not super accessible online and all these different places. That sounded kind of logical to me. I don't think that Lisa may be doing salacious business dealings. I don't know, but I definitely think that Vita Tequila is a real tequila brand at this point. Um, People also debating. I saw some creators saying that they ordered a bottle for Christmas time online. One girl said her boyfriend ordered it for her, and she didn't receive it. And then I saw that coming from another creator. So that's disappointing to hear, just because, you know, I customer service and all that stuff is like super important. And when you're spending your money on the internet, like you should get what you buy, right? So hopefully, refunds were issued and things were made right between everyone, but definitely probably not a great business look, I'm sure, for Lisa. People also talking about the way her and Heather were going at it in the first part of the reunion. A lot of negative um, feedback on the first part of Salt Lake City reunion. People talking about it getting too deep, too quickly, too dark, too fast, those sort of things. I don't know. I think Heather is, again, people are kind of surprised by what they're seeing from Heather. And I think it's affecting the cast in general. Monica Garcia has been a guest on Carlos King's podcast. I think they're like reviewing Salt Lake City like once a week, probably whenever the show comes out. Really enjoy them two together. Carlos and not white women, but Carlos and like these housewives, like girly girls. I don't know. He does something. He brings out the good. Like, I don't know. I enjoy him and Monica. I think that they vibed really great together. And I actually surprisingly really enjoyed Carlos King and Alexis Bellino from the Orange County. I enjoyed her way better on Carlos's podcast than I did her entire time on the Real Housewives of Orange County. So I don't know what that means, but it just is what it is. Monica, of course, spilling the tea on the podcast about different things. If you guys don't know, she spilled some tea about a housewife that had to be taken to the hospital because they had overdrank and they had demanded that production make the other housewives like stay locked in their hotel rooms while they took her out on a stretcher. Um, we don't know if her stomach got pumped or what all the details were, but the basic of the story was that it was Heather and that she had overdrank on one of the girls' trips and that they actually had to take her to the hospital for it. And so, again, circling back to, you know, you guys are talking about Meredith and you're making these insinuations and you're trying to implicate that she is, messed up or whatever, but at the same time, when it's good for you, it's good for you, right? It's good for you and Whitney. It's good for you guys, and when it's good for you, but when it's not, it's not. So it's a little problematic, if you will. Also, Monica Garcia coming out stating that Heather is suing her, which we knew there was some kind of like lawsuit, something going on with Monica and Beauty Lab over like some injections or some, I don't want to say, I think it was like Botox and injections that she had done at Beauty Lab. And I don't know if they messed them up, didn't do them right, whatever the case was. She ended up like leaving there and having to get them redone somewhere else. And so either she didn't pay or she sued initially, something along those lines. Well, anyway, it's claimed that she owes the money to Beauty Lab, and she's stating that Heather is actually suing her for that now, and that it's she owns her own home. She is a single mom of four girls, and that Heather basically is like putting the full armor of the law, if that's even how you would say it, but like the full authority of the law behind her to come after Monica for this money. And because she owns her home, I guess that could potentially put her home in danger if it's over a certain amount. I'm sure that all of that is like standard to the state. It's different state to state to state, but it's basically something along those lines. And people were really just in the comments kind of talking about how appalling it is of Heather. And then she proceeded to go on Salt Lake City and talk about how she was so grateful for the opportunity because the show has like allowed her to pay for her daughter's college and to buy them new cars when they turned 16 and to do all these luxurious fancy things. And the truth is that Heather's ex-husband is very wealthy. Heather's daughters were going to have the nicest of the nice, probably no matter what. It just was Heather was able to obtain it on her own versus, I guess from her ex-husband. I mean, he owns part of Beauty Lab. She told us that a long time ago that he had given her the money to invest in that. Um, and so I think that he's always been very, very well off. I don't know what her situation looked like as a single parent. I'm sure, yeah, of course, the show has increased her wealth dramatically. I'm sure, but to make it as if like she was like a single mom struggling is probably not a very fair comparison. Um, Heather needs to be careful. She's on thin ice. I think with fans at this point, people are starting to um, look at her through a different lens than they have before. And um, I don't know, it's just not good for her. I kind of pegged Heather a couple of seasons ago, so I'm not so entirely shocked, but I know that there are a lot of people that are shocked by what they're seeing from Heather over the last couple of years, and they don't like it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that she's going to obviously try to pull it together. Um, and get her fan base back to, fanning her because something is, people are seeing a lot of her, I don't want to say strategic, but like her manipulative ways. Is that a better word for it? Um, especially even when it comes to Lisa Barlow and just trying to be in the it girl. I don't know. It's a lot from her, and people are noticing, and people are picking up on it, and people don't like it because it's not authentic. And I talked about in one of my videos on TikTok the other day about how I think that she's also terrified that Jen Shaw's coming for her, and she should be because who remains like, oh, I'm so loyal to my friend, and you saw her off to prison, and you are showing everyone what a loving, loyal, supporting friend looks like, and that's all great and everything. But then Jen Shaw's in prison for a couple of years, and we learn about Monica Garcia and all this stuff, right? And all of a sudden now Heather is putting in her book about Coach Shaw making out with Monica Garcia at a convenience store. It just didn't make any sense. Like, why? If isn't Jen your friend? I'm so confused because Jen is like seeing some of the darkest days of her life. She's in prison for God's sake, and you're out here writing a book about her current husband that she's still married to while she's in prison about him making out with Monica at a convenience store. I don't know. I just found that to be distasteful. And I'm sure that Jen Shaw did not like it either. And so I kind of got the feeling that Heather is sleeping with one eye open because she is scared that Jen Shaw's coming for her. And she probably should be because I'm sure Jen Shaw is going to rock her one when she sees her. And I think that Heather's been working really hard behind the scenes to try to make sure that Jen Shaw does not have a spot or any sort of, relationship to try to make her way back onto Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because that would be Heather's worst nightmare. It could potentially end her whole career at Bravo. I think between Lisa Barlow and Meredith, and if you got Jen Shaw back, I think that Heather wouldn't stand much of a chance. She would just have Whitney. That would be it. And Whitney, she doesn't have a whole lot going on. I think that she's loved and everyone loves her on the show and stuff, but I mean, she doesn't have a whole lot going on to, storyline wise that would keep them both, you know, popular and on the show, if you will. So I think that that's a concern that Heather has. The way that she threw herself at the captain, I have no words. I mean, I thought that they were like actually dating. I thought that they had like maybe hooked up whenever the before they were on the show, whenever she had like met with him and they were making plans to do all of this. I thought maybe they were like hooking up then, and that's why they ended up, doing the whole thing, and that's why she was the way that she was while they were on the yacht with him. But when I saw him at BravoCon and he did Watch What Happens Live right before BravoCon and basically was like, there's nothing going on between Heather and like I don't want to say he dogged her because I don't think that he dogged her per se, but he was very, very clear that there was nothing um, relationship wise going on between the two of them. Like he was very adamant that like, they were responsible for basically bringing these two great shows together, yada yada yada, but like there was no sort of sexual relationship or encounters happening between the two of them, which is basically kind of the complete opposite of what Heather was insinuating to people when she was on Watch What Happens Live. And she almost made it seem like she was trying to scare off other women from um like hitting on him because of her. It was very peculiar, and it was very I don't even know, like it was weird to me. I don't know. It seemed like she was so, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but that's almost how I felt. Like it was embarrassing. It was cringe. It was like, I don't know. You should have been aware that this is how this man felt when he went on Watch What Happens Live. And because the Watch What Happens Live was a different day than the BravoCon interview that I saw, which was basically he basically replicated what he had said on Watch What Happens Live. Like, we don't have any sort of relationship. Like, I don't know why she says this. We're just responsible for bringing these two great franchises together and making great TV. Like, that's it, nothing else, nothing more. And yeah, it was definitely cringe. And I think this is a lot about her and just maybe like her way of communicating with men and just not maybe being, I don't know, able to read people's, maybe I don't know. It was almost like Heather was so loud and she everything was like multiplied with her. Like she was louder than she normally was. She would laugh louder and harder than she normally did. She was just trying too hard is what it felt like. And I was like, well, maybe she's just drinking a lot. They're on this yacht and they're on vacation and or we don't know what happened prior to the show. Maybe they were like hooking up and dating. It's more serious than we actually know. But here to come to find out is none of those things. They're not hooking up. It's not serious. And he's not dating her. He doesn't want to, be clear about that. So again, peculiar. I don't quite understand it. Yeah. And then not much about Brittany. Haven't heard much about her. Um, she's Heather's plus one technically. Really, she is. And I kind of feel like Heather brought her on a little bit to kind of, obviously to bring in an ally. It's always great to have an ally, right? Um, Without the Osmond thing, though, I don't know how much we will see of her, if they'll make her a friend of, a full time of what they'll do. Did see some gossip about Angie online about her husband and these groups of people that he's following, like these attorneys and life coaches that are basically for people that are victims of narcissistic abuse. One of them is a lawyer, like a divorce attorney that advocates for men for their children's rights, like, you know, to keep parental rights and divorces from narcissists. Um, Somebody went through his following list and found these accounts that he was following, and they're basically saying that him and Angie are done, that they're looking at divorce, and that he's insinuating that she's a narcissist by following these accounts and basically, you know, victimizing his own position, if you will. Do you guys think they're getting divorced? I guess I could see that a little bit just be. Hi, honey. You're home early. You're home early. Hi, guys. Sorry, my little girl's home from school. Close the doors of the cat, baby. It's okay. You got her? Let the damn cat in. Let her out. Oh, there she goes. Thank you, baby. That's okay. Anyways, guys, talking about Angie and her husband, do you guys think that they're going to be getting divorced? I mean, I could see it just because of the fact that, I don't know, they didn't seem super compatible to me to begin with. They seem like a little bit of a strange pair, no? Mommy's on her live right now. Shh, shh. Mommy's on her, she's working right now. You want that? Okay. Can you watch your show for a few minutes so I can wrap up? Okay. Can you turn it on? Okay. And then mommy get you something to eat for dinner, okay? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. We are in business now. Anyway, Angie, I guess, is going to be testifying in Congress because she is someone who politically supports franchises. I just saw it on Twitter that basically, she finds that building wealth and franchises and yada, yada, yada. And so she's going to be testifying in Congress for that. Um, were you guys around to see her get exposed? There were, for some reason, I can't see your guys' comments. I don't know why. I'm using StreamYard, and normally I can see the comments, but for whatever reason today I cannot. I don't know why that is. So I apologize if you guys are commenting and I'm not responding. That's the only reason why. I guess I probably shouldn't have used the streaming service. I should have just came through to the app, and then I wouldn't have that problem. But anyways, um, I saw just some different tea about Angie and her corresponding with some like bloggers about her getting her dual citizenship there in Greece. And I think it must have been when her and Lisa were trying to like battle it out, and Lisa was saying that she was putting stuff in the press about her, that Angie was putting stuff in the press about Lisa. And that it was coming from a blogger, and that basically, Angie must be feeding it to this blogger. Well, I have followed the blogger for a long, 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 long time, and I don't think that's the case. He also had exposed the things with Bronwyn, these charges apparently that I guess, are sealed but aren't felonies because she couldn't get her citizenship if she was a felon. I'm not sure how any of that works, to be honest with you. Sounds right to me. But at the same time, it's very odd to have misdemeanor charges sealed so tightly. Typically, you don't see cases like that sealed unless if it involves a minor. Um, so that's a little peculiar to me. I can't. There's a lot of crimes that can waiver on. So your felony fives are your lowest felonies. Um, and then after your felony fives, like the next lowest thing would be like a misdemeanor one. So there are a lot of times when people could be charged with a felony, but when it comes to actually indicting them, which means taking the evidence to, um, a jury of 12 of your peers and presenting the evidence, the jury can either move to indict you or to not indict you. If the jury of your 12 peers decides there's not enough evidence to indict you on the felony five, what happens then is it gets kicked back down to the lower level courts, the municipal courts, to the highest level in a municipal charge, which would be an M1. Okay, so that's the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor. Sometimes it's literally not very much of a difference, even though it's a big difference in the scheme of things when it comes to what court you're going to be prosecuted in. If it's a felon, then obviously there's state penitentiary time behind it, versus if it were a misdemeanor, you would serve any jail time there in your local county jail. Big, big difference in felonies and misdemeanors when it comes to jobs applications and, any of those sort of things. It's a big difference. Typically, jobs want to know if you have a felony. They don't, misdemeanors are neither here nor there. A speeding ticket, car accident could be a misdemeanor. So A big difference legally, but at the same time, not really a big difference when it comes to like actually charging and indicting somebody. It, it could go from a felony five, you could get charged hypothetically, like charged with a felony five, and if you get an attorney before they move to indict you, a lot of times that attorney will go speak on your behalf to the prosecutors and try to keep that charge in the lower level courts. And almost, they can be successful at that, and it doesn't even make it to a grand jury. So it's all in whatever legal representation and charges and so many different contributing factors in something like that, that it's really hard to narrow down what Bronwyn's charges actually could have been, what they were, and what kind of actions she might have taken that would have resulted in those charges, because there's just so many moving parts when it comes to your local, state, and federal jurisdictions. What's right? Are you serious right now? You told on him? I know, honey, but don't you know that snitches get stitches and end up in ditches? Yeah, you can't snitch on people, baby. Don't cry. It's okay, but don't tell on people no more, okay? If he doesn't do his work, he doesn't do his work. You worry about Gianna. That's it. It doesn't matter. Let Miss Saunders deal with it if it's really important. That's okay. That's none of your. Well, I know, but next time let's just worry about Gianna. If you have your work done, that's what's important, okay? Okay? Well, I know, but that's you don't have to worry about Miles, baby. You just gotta worry about you. Jeez, my God, help me, Lord Jesus. Oh, um, yeah. So that's where we're at with the bloggers and with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. That's where we are. We're not gonna get anything about what the actual charges were, what the case with Bronwyn was about. We know obviously that her and Todd are divorcing, which I think we all could have saw coming really since season one. Are we surprised? Like, I don't think that we are. Or are we? I don't really feel. I don't know. Do we? Do we have to go on a TV show to get divorced? Like, if did maybe she needed her own income, maybe she just needed the confidence or the support or the boost. I don't know. Because I hate to see people get divorced after they come on the show. It's like I would have rather maybe you guys got divorced first and then you came on the show. Just my personal opinion. But yeah, that's what I'm getting from Salt Lake City. And pretty much okay, honey. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, that's where we're at with Salt Lake City. Beverly Hills is a snooze fest. Everyone's talking about what a snooze fest it is over there in the Beverly Hills. Um, and okay, okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna wrap up this episode. I just wanted to hop on and come and talk Salt Lake City. Again, I'm gonna be doing some more lives coming up, so hopefully you guys have your alerts on. Put your alerts on, okay, you guys. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay warm if you're on the East Coast because it is freezing cold here, and if you're on the West Coast, enjoy some sunshine for me and my seasonal depression, please. And thank you. Have a great day, guys. Bye.